Hey, 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 how's everyone doing out there in the land? So I'm back again tonight and we got some little bit of action. Starting out with Blue Black. So I don't really have any jokes. We'll just go right into the commentary. We've got Restless Reef, the series of cards, the Restless Cottage, Restless Bivouac from that set were so great. I love to play with them. This land in particular, Mill's like the opponent, and you know how I feel about Mill. It's great. Uh, More cards in this hand. We've got Mockingbird. I don't really like Mockingbird because of the X and its cost. And I get it, that's how you choose what it clones. Whatever it clones gets flying. But sometimes there's just stuff on the table you don't want to clone. We've got Flood Pit Drowner. That is another one. Really hard. You have to have something with a stun counter on it to bring it back to your hand. Again, it's situational. You have to be paying attention. You have to play it right. That's the only way to make any kind of card advantage off of it. Oil Deep Gearhawk. So the Gearhawk cycle that just came out in Aether Drift, everybody seems to love it. I'm really like it looks like they just want to use the name to draw some nostalgia. Oil Deep Gearhawk. What does it really do? Lifelink, ward, a weird form of duress where you can look at the opponent's hand and remove a card from it, but they get to draw. A 4/4 for 4 mana. I'm not seeing anything special like the original Gearhawks were. But that's alright. I have it in my hand for a reason, obviously. So going over with more of what's in the hand, we have a Note with Affliction. It was good in the set it came out in. Without poison counters, which are still in standard, but not played as heavily anymore. Really a 2 mana kill spell that just really doesn't have a lot of targets in the late game. But hey, it's all okay. So as we speak about this game right now, nobody's doing a little bit of nothing. I should have went for the synthesizer. I don't remember why I didn't, but that probably would have been the appropriate play. The Relic of Legends, eh, it's got a place in a bunch of decks. I really feel if you're playing that, you want to play more of a Joda deck. Uh, but it is what it is. We'll continue on the path. Again, as you see, I'm not getting anything. I could have got Kato out there under his ninjutsu, but just wasn't feeling it. Here's where I start to think. So that Overlord, I got some time before it disenchants itself and becomes a creature. This is the best Overlord in the Duskborn set, in my opinion. Gives you some land. It's nice, but game goes on. Here we see the duress ability. What do I make him discard? Is the synthesizer, but he gets a draw. So he might have drawn it right back or something better. And honestly, just by looking at his hand, there wasn't a lot he was going to trigger off it anyway. And I don't know how he did that. Got that big bad boy twice. And now I have to have a way to deal with it. And at this point, I'm going to think I'm going to use Mockingbird to deal with it by cloning it. But I can't even do that yet. Go ahead and take my one. And I did Kato this time. Why? Because I don't care if he gets the relic at this point. I am too far beyond the clock to be playing games. Seriously. And it just is what it is. I misplay. I don't use Kato's draw or his +1 ninjas. And he gets Chili Meister. I mean, Chimley. Or Chili Meister. Depends what you had to eat that day. So, what the point of Flood Pit was, and playing it right then, was it taps out his Overlord. He doesn't get to attack with it, and he will still have the stun count on my turn, which means I can return it to his hand. And unless I have something else which I want to do, which I do decide I want to do, which is Mockingbird. And while he's tapped out, I'm going to go ahead and get my attack on. You guys don't know how bad I have the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX theme song playing in my head right now. But I'm not going to do it because I don't want to torture any of you all. And this game just took so long. He has lost. That's not going to help him. And there's Chile trying to make its presence known, but there's just not a lot he can do at this point. Uh, I don't believe double strike actually happens in fights. It doesn't. So, now how are we going to win? Well, he has one flyer that can take on Hotwoods and win. Uh, but what can I do? So I'm going to go ahead and bat, take Inga, bat again. Nope, I found the win condition. Come across with the death touch, and even if he blocks, I'm going to take pieces off the board, which is what I pretty much need. He's looking at the blocks. There are a couple blocks he can do which will lead to his survival, but not really. And then we got Primal Dawn taking out Hauntwood. And boom. It was gold. Same deck again. The only thing really different in this hand is cut down. A 1 mana kill spell, but the creature has to have a power and toughness of 5 or less put together, which is a pretty good restriction. But 1 mana for a kill spell is just aces. I see I have nothing but junk land. I'm going to throw that out, hoping maybe cut down is my answer to whatever he plays. At this point, Underground River, again, probably not the best choice, but it was the choice I made. Felling Blow, Inspiring Call, kind of a toss up. And I went for Inspiring Call. Again, there's Flood Pit. I don't know why I put that in that deck. I hate that card. To me, it's difficult to use. It ties you up for 2 turns. The turn you stun counter it, and the next turn when you pull it back to hand. And Authority of the Council, such a great card. I hate seeing that played against me. It's a 1 mana, just throw a wrench in the game plan, masterful piece of design. And the question is, what am I going to do now? So I'm experimenting a lot with this deck. I go with the Oil Deep Gearhulk just because I don't get the point of it. Now I will say something weird, which is probably part of the design that I'm not seeing, is that you could, if you wanted to, target yourself with it. I'm gonna make him drop the card that gets rid of enchantments or creatures power 4 or greater, because, well, Gearhulk. Make your move, that's what it is. Uh, Again, they get a draw off of it. Doesn't make sense. Maybe Gearhulk's looking more for Delirium or Madness decks, and you target yourself. But even then, that's a lot of mana just for a little pip like that. So he's got a little bit of defense, but I don't care. Um, gonna go ahead and throw Curiosity. You can save Curiosity and use its flash, but honestly, you're probably not looking at it as a defensive creature for you. It's either offensive or you're just trying to get the draw pip off of it. Shoot, the Sheriff, like I've said before, is one of the better cards, I think. Anytime you get a kill spell for less, it's always a good deal. I love the name of that card, Mild Mannered Librarian. I think that was great design. And the fact that it becomes a werewolf was kind of but just the name on it, congrats. And we're going on. I still don't have any win condition. He is behind me, but he is keeping up to a degree. And this is when I'm going to start just clearing his board out a little bit because I can't let him keep up with me even if he's behind. And again, one thing I should be worried about at this point, but I'm not, is overdrawing. What's the point of drawing extra cards around if I'm just going to have to discard them? That is something that I need to work on in my play strategy. I often come to that point without thinking about it, and then I'm there deciding what to drop because I overdrew. At this point, I have the game. He has to know it. He's just not willing to give it up yet. Where a thespian, it's a darn good card. It's a 3/1 for 2 mana. I mean, who couldn't love that? Um, but he is slow playing. He's making it feel like a New Kids on the Block concert. He's bringing out all the boys to the band, and they're dropping off one by one. And he's gonna felling blow the Hulk. Why? Because he thinks this thespian's big and bad, and that there's no way I can deal with it once it's out. Gearhulk does nothing. I don't even think he gets a draw. He doesn't get to draw off of it. And the question is, what am I going to do? If I attack, he gets my curiosity. And again, I should be paying attention to how many cards are in hand. I'm not. And that Feldor retreat. So this is not the first set it's been in. Uh, I had a Basri deck that loved it when it was out back in Origins, and even before that. But honestly, I think its time has come. Uh, there's a little bit of landfall in foundations, but you don't really see landfall being a primary way of play, I guess best way to say it. Preacher of the Scion, again, can't say enough good about that card. Card draw and lifelink if you need it is kind of zang. And again, I've got this game. I don't know why he's. Oh, that's why he's trying to carry it out. He thinks he's got something with damn judgment. But the fact is I'm still going to keep my curiosity. I've got a full hand, and there's plenty I can do. He has not done anything but slow me down slightly. And I realized I could have done Reef there and gone for an attack, but I didn't. I want to put my board back out instead. Um, Tonight was maybe not my best night. Um, a lot of misplays, and I keep calling them out. I saw them when I did them, and I was like, why am I doing this? Um, Life stuff in my mind, maybe, not paying attention, trying to play, record, think of things to talk about, which I came up empty. Uh, Mostly because I don't want to give out too much personal information about myself, which would be identifiable, which is never a good thing to do online. Hey, this just came after school special lesson. Don't talk about your personal life on your streams. Woohoo! Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to do these streams and make something important. But coming up with the script from for them is taxing at best. Um, you don't know whether to be funny or straightforward. And Kaito's out, and again, I think I used him that time. I did use him that time, and he finally says, "Okay, it's done." All right, back in the saddle again with the same deck. Restless Reef already said how much I love it. Restless Cottage, I feel the same way about, and I'm usually not a fan of special lands. And I look at those flood pits every time they're in my hand, and I just think, Little Caesar's Pizza Dragon? How dumb. Why did I keep that? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the the train of thought and type of mind I live with on a daily basis. Can you see why I'm going a little crazy? Probably not, but it's okay. Here we are living in a Republican country. The current president says that Russia started a war with Ukraine. Who the hell knows? Like, does that make any sense at all? So I guess I can play like shit tonight and it still makes sense. All right. I think this pet he has is from Aether Drift, this TV thing with rockets. I mean, it doesn't matter because I didn't get it, but just my opinion, it's one of the better looking pets. Just saying. And neither one of us seems to be doing much. Lightning Helix, the other great card, 2 mana for 3 up, 3 down. Surprised it's still in circulation. This game seems to be going slow, and he seems to be not responding mostly. Um, we can see as we wait, he's trying to run Lightning Helix like it's going out of style, which I don't get. I should. I know why I went with the strike. I went with the strike because I felt it was death for the bat no matter what I did. But honestly, the Flame Swordsman there, whatever it is that gives all instance lifelinks. Yes, Flame Swordsman's Yu-Gi-Oh. Sorry, but you know the card I'm talking about, the White Swordsman guy. I should have probably tried to grab that and targeted out Lightning Strike or something else. But then again, what else was I going to try to target it out with? I don't know. So perhaps that was the best call at the time. And I'm trying to get this guy to pay attention. Yo, bro, come on, make a play. Now, his most likely play is this, the Swordsman's Other Half. In fact, that's it. I don't remember what it's called, but I know it when I see it. He is forever now Flame Swordsman. Now, this is what I'm talking about. We'll see as this match goes on. That creating these life linkers off the Preacher. Oh, Flame Swordsman becomes critical to me. And so now Flame Swordsman's sitting over there. He's probably getting dropped on his next turn. I need to go ahead and attack. And that's going to be the only thing I can do to even have a hope of surviving. This is not looking good, but I think these little life linkers, slowly ticking me up, are what is going to bring me back. Because this game is not going any kind of where fast, and there's no surprises to it right now. Uh, I can't exactly read his hand, but I'm pretty sure he's got some more shocks and some more lightning strikes and stuff sitting back there. Well, I mean, he's definitely got one. We can see it, but let's go on. So, Heart Flame, Flaming Swordsman there. That dickhead needs to go. I This deck with all this to your face burn will just outrun you. Get my pips, and I'm back on Route 66. We're we're ahead, but we're behind, and that's always an interesting place to be at in Magic the Gathering, is to be ahead and behind. We've definitely got the game by board. As for now, it's not locked. But look at this mana pool he has. Look at ours. Look at his life. Look at ours. Like, we're ahead, but we're behind. And the problem with being ahead but behind is that's the perfect opportunity to make mistakes because you get nervous. You start thinking, oh, how am I going to make up this land deficit? How am I going to make up this life deficit? Instead of concentrate on what you have, which is right now for me a very overwhelming board state. May not be too solid, may not be locked in, but it's definitely overwhelming compared to his. There goes the preacher. Preacher back on board again. As soon as I decided to go for my button, do it, do it, let's do it again. I'm gonna start editing these out for breaks that I take there too long, because that's a little annoying. Like, come on already. And there I go. That was like the most obvious play in the universe, and I took 3 hours to do it. I am sorry. I am the time thief. He's taking a minute to let it resolve. Now I'm gonna go into attack. I don't get why he's running to the face so hard when I've got all these life linkers. To me, if I'm playing a burn, yes, I'm gonna go for your face more often than not. But if you got lifelink on the board, or your board's just stronger than mine, but not impossible, I'm gonna go after. And Crash, that was way too late, bro. You've wasted like two burn spells to my face when you could have been taking this stuff out. Uh, Bad night for him, I guess. Okay, now at this point, another creature. Go ahead and come across, and I get the trifecta of getting the life linker and the card draw on that one, which I love when that happens. And now it's 18-7. Uh, he doesn't do anything to come back from this, and honestly, with the build he has, I doubt there was anything he could have done to come back from this. So that's all she wrote. It's Agatha Christie time. Woo! And he is again slow rolling me, which that's okay. Since he's going to slow roll, oh, finally. Thank God, victory. And we're on to the next one. Again, this is probably not going to be a deck I stick with. I did a lot of practice with it because he had cards that I rarely use. I was trying to experiment, trying to learn. That's how we get better. That's how we stop being uh, level 1 noobs. But again, look at this hand. Honestly, there's nothing in this hand I would want to keep, but I kept it anyway. And here we are. I think Savannah Lions is so cool from Alpha, and they bring it back in the Foundation set. Uh, WotC has been doing that a lot where they try to draw on the nostalgia of the fans. But I'm not saying I'm not excited for the future, for Dragonstorm, for Endless Eternities, much less the Final Fantasy set or the Spider-Man set, because I kind of regret being a snob towards the Marvel set. I think I missed out on that one. But also, I don't feel like the game is progressing lore-wise, and the story is why it's lasted this long. I wish they would realize that. I mean, yeah, it's the fans, it's the money, it's the hype, but the lore is what drew people to it, what kept me coming back. There were years that I didn't touch a magic card, but I would definitely go on the website and read the lore. And now it's like I don't even want to read the lore. It's so horrible. Uh, I think I've listened on web stories to some of the lore, maybe a total of 15 minutes worth of lore. And while it's better than, say, Thunder Junction, it's better than Murders of Call Off Matter, it's better than Bloomborough, which is unfair because Bloomborough was actually pretty good lore wise. It's just that they presented it as a little golden book, and I don't know, it felt like I was being talked down to as a reader. Okay, so this play in particular, I know where I was thinking. I really want to play Mockingbird. I don't know why. I just had it in my nose that I want to play it because I don't play it that often. I'm trying to experiment with it, see what it does, so I can learn about it. But Helpful Hunter just doesn't seem like the target. Plus the fact that it has Ward, thanks to Shelter by Ghost, which is one of the better enchantments. Now here's where I have to make a decision. I can still Mockingbird it, or I can do that. And that is the better decision because it pulls it off the board for a turn. Yes, he's going to get the draw of it, but I get my Kato back. And Kato's a good friend. I gotta confess, when Kato first came out back in Neon Dynasty, I didn't like his character. I didn't like his card, and they continued to make iterations of him, and I didn't know why. I thought this is a crappy card. Just move on to another Planeswalker. But his last two iterations, they might not be the most strongest or the best Planeswalkers out there, but their design and the hole they sort of fill in card space, 100% awesome. You see, I did a little experiment there. I targeted myself with the Gearhulk. I don't think I really got what I wanted out of it, but I just want to see what it would do. And I'm thinking, damn, I don't want the Gearhulk. So, and again, Surveil is a weird mechanic. So Scry, you can choose to put it on bottom or top. Makes sense. Trash you don't want in your hand right now, bottom it. Surveil, the fact that you put it on top of the graveyard is a little different. Like, it's only helpful when you have a graveyard mechanic, like a recursion mechanic or dredge or threshold or something that needs stuff to stack in the graveyard. So it's kind of weird to know how to play Surveil for me. I would rather they bring back Scry. They didn't really get rid of it, but Surveil probably shows up, in my opinion, way more than it should compared to Scry. Uh, and a lot of times when I read strategy articles or interviews, people seem to think Surveil's better. It's situational. You have to build more around Surveil than you ever did Scry. There was a point where Scry was like the most common evergreen term ever. Not really, but it seemed like it. Seemed like every third card had Scry, whether the card just scried or Scry was a side effect of the card. They were just handing it out like candy. And then they stopped it, but it seems like they're kind of going close that way with Surveil. Not quite there yet, but it does get a little annoying, and I don't think it's as good a mechanic as Scry ever was. Okay, weird hand time again. Darkslick Shores, gotta love that. Spell Pierce. I have never been a good counter player. I typically stay away from blue because I'm not a good counter player. Everybody thinks that blue and control decks is just, oh, you just stop her from playing anything. No, you have to make choices. It is very, very heavily resource managed type style of play. You've got to avoid rash thinking. You can't knee jerk because that thing you think is okay to let through could be the thing that kills you, or it could just be a thing that's baiting out your hand. So I got to be honest. If I'm playing some type of control, I'm either experimenting or I've played that deck so many times that I can hard it out in my sleeve. We're probably at the end of a meta getting ready for rotation, so I know every deck I'll see. I can tell you what's bait and what's not by the first or second land you play. Kiora the Rising Tide. I actually love that card. Uh, it's so weird and nuanced. It's not what you would expect. Uh, 3 mana, 3/2, nothing really horrendous there. But then you get draw two, discard two, which is very weird for blue. Had she been red, yeah, right on key. But for blue, it's getting the draw two, discard two is kind of like what? And then on top of that, if you have 8 in the graveyard, which is why the discard two makes sense on her at that point, you get the octopus from it. I don't know. It's just not a typical blue card in my opinion. You could say, well, Arm of the Seas does it. That was Theros. That was a long time ago. And then you've got the Teresian Mindbreaker. Another one of those like its effect is really good. It just doesn't feel like it's where it should be at. And also half your library rounded down, which means it'll never completely deck, but it'll put them in that situation, which I guess is the trade off. Like they'll make it too powerful. Perfected Mind, another weird one. So I loved the story in the final Phyrexian invasion. I loved the completed planeswalkers. I loved the nuances to them. But this Jace one, it's like the 3 mana Liliana that is basically a kill spell or a stick that you only get to use once. He is almost like that. Like his -3 is what saves him, but especially with the Mindbreaker already emptying out the library, you almost want to go directly to the two, but you can't because if you do, then he's gonna die first turn. Again, board dependent. I'm just talking about in general. Usually, when you get to this point, that's what it's like. And there's that good old spell pierce, which I don't want. But look at that card draw I just get off of him. And now I'm gonna load the graveyard down so that when she gets a chance to attack, I'm definitely getting my octopus. Multiple octopuses actually, because it's not a legendary and you can do it every time she attacks. Uh, this deck it's playing against is just it's trash. It's not quite mill, but it is mill, and it tries to get under you. And I'm of course having none of that shit, as you can see. Into the Flood Maw, again, one of those weird cards I just don't play with enough. If I'm playing with it, it's an experiment. And I'm trying to figure out why I should gift him a fish. In the end, I don't do it. And you might ask, well, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? Blah, blah, blah. I just want a clear shot on him with Kiora. She's not going to end the game, but it's going to help. And there's the octopus. By this time, he has to see that, hey, this is my game. There's nothing you can do. And these, the fear of cards from Duskmourn. I love their flavor, but only some of them were good. Draw to discard. I think Spree was a decent mechanic for Outlaws. It may have been the only good thing to come out of Outlaws, but the cards that it's actually on aren't necessarily the best. Boom goes the dynamite, and I'm back to playing the same deck again. Okay, I played this deck more times than I thought. I don't know why, but here we are with Civ HC, and we are going to throw Verge. That land cycle was so good. I don't like the Markov Surveil lands. I would rather they Scry than Surveil, to be honest. And I've talked about Surveil earlier in my misgivings about it. But honestly, given a choice, which we are, since the Scrylands are currently in standard, I would go for them before I would go for the Surveil lands. Uh, and there's the Slasher. This is this really weird game. I remember this one now. Uh, I'm going to mock Slasher. I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Forge is another one of those great cards, which is almost always an auto include depending on what the deck's trying to do, but also it's stoppable. Like he's getting an early lead, but I feel like Forge is not impossible to get around. You could say, all it's doing is producing a creature that slightly ups itself every turn. But there's things that take advantage of artifacts coming into play, creatures coming into play, things getting sacrificed. Like there's a ton of ways, especially in red and black, to take advantage of all of that. And most times I see that card in the deck that doesn't specifically target that advantage. It just uses this to press creatures out on the board to put you on the clock. It's successful. The strategy works. I'm just saying it could be used for a better purpose. The cycle from Dominaria, I believe, of Underground River, where it's a weird variant of all the old dual lands. Not a complete fan. I get the point. Just it's hard for me to say this. Okay, we gotta talk about the reserve list. Everybody hate me, roast me, whatever. The reserve list needs to be a living, breathing object. The fact is that stuff hasn't gone on the reserve list for like over a decade. I think there should be stuff that drops off. There should be stuff that goes on, and you can get mad and say, "Well, then it's not a reserve list because it's only a temporary." No, there's going to be things that stay on it forever. I'm just saying it needs to change and grow over time, and there might be something that's on it forever. There's might be something that's on it for 5 years, and how that's going to be determined is the secondary market price of the cards. So, in my mind, the cheapest cards fall off the list because they're not really an investment anyway at that point, which is the whole reason the list was created. And also, they got to the list by being at such a high price that people wanted them. So anyway, and then the high price stuff stays on the list to protect its investable value. And what I said all that for is to say this. I never thought I would say this. I know how valued what I'm about to talk about is. It's just time to reprint the straight up dual lands. Uh, you've tried and you've tried and you've tried and you've put restrictions, shockland, scryland, tapland, uh, bring back your hand lands, whatever. Just reprint them all already. The Power Nine, let it stay gone, but just bring back the dual lands for one set. Don't put it in some weird product where it's only can be gotten for a price. Put them in packs, make them the lottery cards of the set. Rant over, except I will say, except for what I just said about dual lands, the reserve list is actually a good thing that we need to keep. This isn't a stock market, yes, but also it's really nice to get some value back out of your collection. So I do believe in the reserve list, but I also believe that the dual lands need to make at least a guest appearance at some point outside of the reserve list and give people access to them once again. Okay, we're back in this game. I'm playing this red green uh, kind of dinos deck. It doesn't really play how I want it to play. Mossborn is getting its work in. And the Legion Foundry, it's another one of those questionable cards. We all get these pet cards that we want to put in every deck we build. but then the card itself does nothing for us. We're just like, oh, this is so cool. And I want it in your deck. And for me, that Achilles heel is Legion Foundry. Okay, so and here's the surprising thing. We're like, you should learn it's trash and the way you build your decks. That Legion, you can't take advantage of it. I can't. And I only have one copy of it, and when I put it in a deck, I draw it every game. One copy, and I draw it every game. Uh, anyway, I digress. Let's go on. Generous Plunderer. So the deal here was, even if I didn't need the treasures from Plunderer, that I could feed them to the Legion Foundry, and I'm misnaming it, but I already said it once, so I'm going to double down and keep saying it. But I could feed treasures to it, and that would make it worthwhile having it. But it just never kind of works out that way. And this game was so aggravating. There was so much I wanted to do, but I never got board stable to the point where I could just play. I was always trying to keep board established. Again, using his damage ability on that was why it was pointless. I should have just attacked into it and seen if he would have gave it to me anyway. Uh, as far as this game gets, that was pointless. Uh, but that's all right. I digress. Instead of regress, let's make some progress. And I really want Luke out at that point. I don't know why. The ability that I wanted to use for him is not even that great. It's the deal damage. It's the Luca causes a fight ability essentially. And with what I had on the board at that point, it wasn't going to help. So I'm glad that I didn't do it, but I really wanted to do it. I feel like at this point I was just playing things to not just to play them, but because they were my favorite cards, and I wasn't playing selectively. Look at this big trouble on the board he's got for me. So glad I pulled away from Luca, but I could also play Primal Bellow and probably stood up to him better. So, but I took the gamble on Green Sun, and it did pay off. The first strike on Bornhorde Dracosaurus there is what's going to keep me alive. And I don't know what he was thinking with that Great Worm. Like, uh, he just attacks into me. And, like, I don't get what he was thinking. I'm not playing very great at this point, but he definitely, like, I don't know, heart wasn't in it. Again, this deck is really good, but it also wound up being, oh, I like this card. And unfortunately, it's one of the biggest hurdles, in my opinion, to being a good Magic player is realizing that the card you like is not always a good card. It doesn't belong in that deck. But we all tend to get stuck like that sometimes. There we go. And I was hoping to draw another red. I would have liked to put out the Razorkin Needlehead. His kind of pseudo shieldredness is definitely good. And these hair decks, if they're built correctly, they're hard to get around. I've got to get it off the board. There's more coming to follow it, and they're all going to use it to multiply the tokens. So at this point, my strategy is knowing that there's no one probably coming out this turn. It's just to lay the damn charm as thick and as fast as possible. Now, if he doesn't have another hair in his hand right now, it's not necessarily over for him, but Jet definitely gives me a chance to breathe because every turn that goes by that he's not building a legion and making me hurt is a turn that I can pour it on, and I will turn pour it on. But here's another hair. Now imagine if he had the other one still on the board. I get my other red. But at this point, I realized that going for Razorkin may not be the best ideal. Why am I going to put Luca Bondaroon out there? Because this deck and the board state I'm in, I can take advantage of that +1 just not on the turn it comes out. But that's all right. Having a 3/3 out is going to do nothing but help me. And now I'm thinking I'm freaked. Mother flicka. Got a flea flicker. Uh, I love the fact that his trigger's optional, but I always feel obligated to trigger it, if that makes sense. But the question now is, what am I going to do? I'm going to take advantage of Luca's +1. I'm going to get my Needlehead out, which is what I've been trying to do for a while, and I'm going to get one of my big boys out. I feel like things are now in hand for me. He's going to have to give me 2 of those tokens or surrender, and he chooses surrender, death or dishonor. It's whatever, partner. So we're going to go at it again one last time. Old college try for the home team. These pain lands, or I guess anti-pain lands, whatever, from Outlaws, they're okay. Again, I'm not a fan of special lands. I play with them sometimes because they do help, but it's planning around the drawbacks that I don't like. And I hate these 2 rats, the Skull Billower and the other guy. One has Proliferate, one has Death Touch, and I don't even pay attention to which one's which. Those things hit the board, they are an immediate target. And that's all there is to that. Target him, Soul Cleaver tries to take it for a ride, I say no, and I slap him in the face. And he says, Informer, throw another one down. And at this point, I'm thinking I'm screwed. There's my 3rd land, though, so I might be okay. What am I going to do? I'm going to throw my 3rd land. I'm going to get my token on Bristly. And I'm going to do Screaming Nemesis. Nemesis, like a masseuse. And he just surrenders. I didn't get why he quit so quickly. Boros Enchantments. Or some people might call it boring enchantments. But we're going to go ahead, and I don't know why it took so long to load on this one. But it does. Uh, let's discuss my hand. We've got Heliod. So interesting. Well, we don't get to discuss my hand. Next. And next is uh, anytime you want to load. Today, Junior. Jesus. Did I pause the video here? There we go. Okay, Boros Enchantments. And it loaded quickly. Uh, that was a half dozen, 6-1, waiting for the break of day. It could have been Council first, it could have been Scavenger first, but I went to proc Scavenger with Council. Uh, and it could have hurt me just as bad as it helped me. It was a gamble. Waiting for the break of day, searching for something to say. But Council's out now. It should help me keep the advantage of what I have. But if you notice, he's playing black, which means Scavenger should not sit on the board for too much longer. But it's 6-1, 24 or doesn't. Nothing to do. Got my innocence, that'll help me too. And I come across the zone and hit him. This, I believe this is the Caverns of Ixalan playground. Very nice. I actually really do like this one. Kind of reminds me of the second Ixalan set, not Rivals of Ixalan. Yeah, that was it. Rivals of Ixalan, where you were in the lost city of Azorka looking for the immortal sun, like a really bad Indiana Jones comic or something. But this playground is such reminiscent of that, but it's also reminiscent of how horrible the last couple of years of Magic have been, and how it's always a repeat and a hat set and a takeoff and a nostalgia. And I know I praised Aether Drift and the design and the mechanic and the flavor wise deserved it, but the lore, ooh, the lore just it's just a snooze fest. I'm sorry. Everything else I said about it, very true. Flavorful, mechanical. I like it, but the lore, trash buckets. It's brain rot dumpster food. I do, however, like these Duskborn cycle of guys that come back as enchantments, and that's why I play Heliod is to grab things out of the graveyard. His other side, I use it from time to time, but it's monkey trash rat food. I don't really like Ephemerma. Flavorfully, yes, she fits, but mechanically usage, I don't. Eh. And I'm just doing that to be a butthole now. Like I didn't need Banishing Light. Could have done anything else, but I decided to be a butthole, and this brings me game. He should at this point decide it's over, but he blocks for some reason, decides to take another turn, and that's when I say 6 to 1, 24, or doesn't. Goodbye. Have a nice life. We'll see you later.